All right, fantastic. So, hi everyone. We're super excited today to welcome Jeremy Lowe from the other Washington. So, this is Washington, D.C., not Washington State. I know sometimes when we say Washington, they're like, which Washington, right? So, I want to make that super clear. Jeremy is representing the undergraduate admissions team at American University. Jeremy, we're so lucky to have you here. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
So glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So, Jeremy, I thought we could just begin by talking a little bit more about American, right? And especially, the Methodist affiliation that you have. And so, is that something, and I'm really curious to know, what does it really mean to be a Methodist affiliated university?
Yeah, that's an excellent place to start. AU was founded as a Methodist institution. We were chartered by an act of Congress in 1893. However, our roots lie with the United Methodist Church. What that means and how that resonates into the vision of the university today is that there remains a deep commitment to social justice and a commitment to improving the world in which we're in, which is foundational to the UCM faith. However, I do want, it's important that students recognize that though we're a United Methodist affiliated institution, that doesn't mean that there's religious requirements that are expected of our students. Indeed, AU is an institution that welcomes all faith backgrounds, and we were the first institution in the United States to have a multi-faith worshiping space on campus. So our K Spiritual Life Center is a multi-denominational, multi-faith worship space on campus that welcomes any student from any faith background. We don't have any religious requirements in the sense that there's no required courses that students need to take from a faith-based background. There aren't required services that students need to attend. But what it means for us to be a Methodist affiliated school is that was our founding, and that was how we were rooted as an institution and got our start. And we hold true to the values of the UC of Faith of being an inclusive space that's committed to making a positive difference in the world that we're in.
That's fantastic. And how about what would you think are like the top three strengths of American University? And I know it's hard to put you on the spot and ask you for only three, but for students who've never visited before, I'm trying to get them to have like a sense of what it's like to be at American and what are the strengths.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think one of the things that distinguishes AU from other institutions is one, our location. We're in an excellent city in Washington, D.C. It's a world-class destination that really provides unsurpassed opportunities to college students. And our students here at AU get to utilize Washington, D.C. throughout their educational journey to enhance their academic experience and their experience outside of the classroom. One of the things that I think AU does really well is implement hands-on learning or experiential learning into our curriculum. So things like internships, research, and studying abroad are really commonplace for most undergraduate students. In fact, nearly 90% of our students will complete at least one internship before they graduate. And one of the things that I think it's important for students, prospective students, to recognize is that Washington, D.C. is not just a place for government and politics. D.C. is a destination for all majors. Outside of the West Coast, D.C. is one of the hottest tech hubs in the United States. We're an excellent place for entrepreneurship and commerce and business, as well as journalism and communications. The arts and humanities all do well here. DC is a STEM intensive city, so there is a lot of research interest happening here. So you really can leverage Washington, DC to enhance or elevate your academic experience while you're here. And internships are one of the best ways that our students are doing that. Students also get the ability to do all of this in a campus that feels like a college campus. Yes, you're in a big city, but AU is a designated arboretum. We don't have city streets that cut through the heart of the campus. So it feels very collegiate while at the same time being in a major metropolitan area. So that's two examples. You have a beautiful campus and you have the opportunity for hands-on learning. I think the third thing that AU does exceptionally well is prepare students for success after college. Indeed, that's why most people go to college. It's to prepare themselves for a successful career after they leave. And that's a charge that we take really seriously here at AU. And I think there's a lot of resources that we put in front of students that help them elevate themselves as they're graduating, that puts them to be in a position for success. Many of our graduates will pursue graduate study. About 20% of students will immediately enroll into graduate school. Those that are entering our workforce, over 80% of them are getting a degree or getting a job related to the degree or field of study that they were in. And we also have a number of students that are pursuing alternative pathways. So think of like the Peace Corps, for example, or a year of service. While they're not in grad school or employed, they're doing a structured experience that is making the world a better place. So those would be the three things that I would highlight: hands-on learning, a beautiful campus space in a major metropolitan area, and a school that's deeply committed to the success of our graduates.
That's fantastic. And I know you touched a little bit upon this, already, Jeremy, but what's it like to study, in DC, right?
Yeah,
I imagine that it's an extension, but I'd love to hear from you. I've never visited, so, I'm going to learn about this through your eyes as well.
sure. Yeah, you're right in that Washington, D.C. is an extension of our campus and our classroom, and our students get to benefit from that week in and week out. One of the ways one of the things that I appreciate most about Washington, D.C. is how diverse it is. Given that we're the nation's capital, we really have people from all over the world that live and learn here. And AU is in a really cool part of the city. So we're in Northwest Washington, D.C. It's more of a neighborhood. It feels like a neighborhood, more residential. But we're in a part of the city known as Embassy Row. So our neighbors are diplomats, dignitaries, politicians. Behind AU's campus is the residence of the Japanese ambassador. Just down the street is the embassy for the United Kingdom. And I can name countless other destinations that students are exposed to. And I believe that when you're in a place that is as internationally minded as Washington, D.C. is, it helps really have a positive impact on your worldview. It helps you think about the world around you differently. So you're in a big city, yes, but it's a city unlike any other because of how diverse it is from an international perspective. DC is also a culture hub. Because we're so international, we bring together a community that has a thriving cultural diversity, and that plays out from cultural events and opportunities that are constantly being hosted both on campus and in around the city. Washington, D.C. is also a naturally beautiful city, much like the Pacific Northwest is. I love going there. The East Coast is a little different, but in Washington, D.C., there is a major park system that runs through the length of the city, where there's excellent hiking and cycling directly in the city center. Within 20 minutes of the AU campus is Great Falls National Park, which also has excellent hiking and rock climbing, kayaking, and so forth. So DC is also a naturally beautiful place to live and learn. If you like the great outdoors, you'd be hard pressed to find a city on the East Coast that offers such proximity to some excellent outdoor spaces to enjoy. So that's something that I think is kind of an unspoken bonus of living in DC, is how naturally beautiful this area is.
Absolutely, right. And then what would you consider to be some of the most popular majors, at American? I know that just being in the hub of it all, right? Political science, I'm sure, is right up there. But what would you say would be some of your other popular majors on campus?
Yeah, you're right in that political science does really well here. That shouldn't surprise anybody. But outside of that, if you look at our top four other largest majors, you're going to find journalism in the mix, business administration, international studies, biology is also there. So there is this wealth of academic diversity there, but you do find strengths across our academic spectrum. So I mentioned journalism, but all of our communications majors do really well. For example, AU has a nationally ranked top film school. Oftentimes when you think of film studies, you think of LA or New York, but you can find a lot of success here at AU in that program. Our business program is excellent outside of business administration. You think of finance. We have this innovative program in business and entertainment for students that want to work in the entertainment industry. And we also have we have the #1 ranked sustainability curriculum in the country. So AU is a school that's deeply committed to sustainability and ensuring that we're preparing students to meet the challenges that come with climate change. And I think that is a testament to where our values lie and how we're providing a curriculum that'll help students make the world a better place. So those would be the 4 other largest programs, but truly strengths across what we have to offer.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to underscore 2 things, to our students and families. 2 things that I found interesting when I was doing my research. I think your COGAT School of Business is the oldest one in DC, which I think that's amazing, right? So you touched upon business. And I also found one more interesting program that I think students, again, it maybe goes under the radar, but I think students would really love to learn about this. That's the CCEG, the Communications, Law, Econ, and government. I think your interdisciplinary degree, which I think it's it's really all encompassing, right?
Yeah.
And I think students would really love to learn about that as well.
Yeah, that major is called CLEG here, Communications, Law, Economics, and Government. And AU generally has a really flexible curriculum with the ability to study in different disciplines over the course of your 4 years. In fact, over 40% of our graduates have at least a minor in addition to their major, so a minor or a second major. So there is a lot of flexibility, but I think CLEG is one of the best examples of academic flexibility because you truly are in a major that is spread out across our campus. It's not in any one school or program. And that's the type of experience we want our students to have because we know learning doesn't happen in one siloed place. It's important that students branch out and understand how programs interconnect and how they can tailor those skills to meet the professional pathways that they want to pursue upon graduation. Yeah, so that's great that you brought up CLEG.
Absolutely. And how about what are some of the newer majors that American has introduced in the last few years?
Yeah, one of the ones I'm most excited about is our neuroscience program. So that's less than 8 years old at this point, so still relatively new on our campus. A research-intensive major that blends together some of our natural sciences and our social sciences to provide, again, a nice cross-disciplinary program of study. Another newer program launched within the last 3 or 4 years is our data analytics for political science majors. So as people are well aware, data analytics and having data fluency is something that is, in a lot of respects, a growing requirement within the workforce, especially those that want to work in politics or in government of some kind. So this provides a new angle for data sciences through the lens of political science. Again, I think that's another excellent example of AU kind of customizing its education to suit the changing demands of the workforce by providing a more data sciences, data analytics intensive major for students.
Right. I don't think I've heard of that one before. So that definitely sounds interesting, kind of combining both those fields together, right? So for sure. Thank you, Jeremy, for sharing, all the strengths and everything that, AU has to offer. We're certainly not done yet, but I was thinking maybe we could switch gears a bit and really talk about, the admissions process and, just thinking about when the admissions team is evaluating a student's application, do they consider, does the choice of the student's major come into play? And how does that look like?
It's a great question. So when a student applies to AU, we are not evaluating applications on the basis of their program of study that they're interested in. So students aren't applying directly to the business school, for example, or to our College of Arts and Sciences. Students are applying broadly to AU, and if offered admission, students are enrolled in AU, meaning that at that point, you can choose to declare whichever major that you like. So you're not competing for a limited number of slots in specific programs. I know that can be a really stressful way to operate for admissions because you're trying to think not of your likelihood of admission into the broader school, but specifically into a program of study that you're interested in. So we don't do that. We do ask students on their application what their academic interest is, but it doesn't have any basis on how we review or make application decisions.
Got it. Okay, so there are not too many impacted majors, and
No,
that's not a thing at AU. So that's great because
it's
I
good.
know, yeah. So because I know that a lot of students, for instance, here on the West Coast, when they want to study computer science, data science, and many of them are actually wanting to get involved with politics and everything. It sounds like AU would be a good fit for them then, right? Because they're going to get the flavor of the Northwest that they're used to, right? As well as being able to study without having to worry about, whether their intended major is going to be impacted.
Indeed. Yeah, that's the approach. I mean, we want students to be able to pursue what they're interested in, yet at the same time still explore other interests that they have outside of that. So going back to the flexibility, even though AU is a research university and pretty research intensive, the core of our curriculum at its foundation is very much akin to a liberal arts college in that we want students to explore their different interests. We want class sizes to remain small. We don't want students competing for a limited number of slots in particular programs. Yeah.
Right. That's great. And so what are some of the things that that you're looking for when you're evaluating student applications, right? What are some of the skills or values that you're hoping to find?
Yeah, I feel like this is an important question, but I also feel like it's one that is, for a lot of schools, has gotten so complicated to answer. Uh, I think we do a good job of keeping it simple here at AU. Anytime we're reading an application, there are two questions we're trying to answer. The first of which, can the student do the work academically? That's an important question to answer. And the answer to that question is fairly easy to come to. Generally speaking, we've come to learn that students who are B plus average students or better, who are taking a competitive curriculum within their high school, are competitive for admission from an academic perspective. They can do the work here. They've shown that they can in high school, and we know that if a student is taking challenging courses within their school community, and they're on average making B pluses or better, they're gonna succeed in the classroom here. That's question one. Question two, the next question we ask is the student a good fit for our community? And that question is easy to answer too, because who thrives in our community is quite broad. I think there are a core set of ideals and values that we see within our student body on the whole. Some of these are students that value an international perspective. AU attracts a globally minded student body. If you're a student that is interested in learning from within a diverse community of students, you'll thrive at a place like AU. We're also interested in attracting students who see inclusivity and diversity beyond just the geographic sense as an enhancement to their educational experience. I've long believed that when you surround yourself with different types of people, with different belief backgrounds and systems, you'll think about the world around you differently. And that's really important to have during your college years. So AU really values inclusivity and diversity, and that's something that we're looking for within our applicant pool. We're also looking for students who are curious, who want to ask questions and advance their field of knowledge within their area of study. We see that happen day in and day out through internships that our students are doing, through research that our students are doing. So we want to attract students that are going to be active participants in the learning process. Those are three characteristics that I think are pretty emblematic across our community. So students who have a sense of curiosity about their program of study, students who are interested in learning in a diverse and inclusive space, and students who value a global perspective. I would say that those are three characteristics that we're trying to seek out in our application, and in addition to the academic readiness piece that I talked about first. But other than that, it's pretty simple. Like there isn't a formula or a list of things we're checking off. It's those two simple questions. Can they do the work here academically? And are they the type of student who's going to thrive in this community and be a good fit for this community.
Right. And I think you indirectly answered one of the most common questions that, that the counseling community gets asked, which is, is it better to get like a B plus in a more challenging curriculum, or is it better to have an A in an easier curriculum? And I think you just started off so beautifully just by saying that, yes, we want you to challenge yourself. And as long as you have a B plus or higher, you should be able to succeed in our environment. Right.
Yeah.
So I love how you started with that.
Well, that's on average too. I mean, I think the thing that we've kind of neglected to recognize as a field in college admissions is that when I say a B plus, I mean on average. 4 years is a long time. We're coming students that are going through the process now. We're starting high school at the beginning of the pandemic. It's okay for students to have lower grades. We recognize that. We're not looking for only B pluses or better on grades, but on average, that's what our students are earning. What we like to see is resiliency, students who have overcome challenges. And there's nothing, for me as an admissions professional, there's nothing more rewarding to see than when a student took a low grade in a subject and brought it up to a higher grade. They improved. They showed growth and maturation. That's what we're looking for in the admissions process. We're not simply looking for straight A's. We're not simply looking for students that have high standardized test scores. And that's fine if a student falls in that category, but it also, when students think that that's what they have to achieve, that can be a pretty hard thing to achieve. Perfection is not what we expect. We're looking for growth. We're looking for maturity. We're looking for progress. And that can happen across grades. It's not just any one grade that we're looking for, but you're right. We want to see growth over time. And on average, our students have a B plus or better average. Yeah.
That's great, Jeremy. I'm so happy you underscored that really that B plus has to be an average, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay if, in the beginning of your high school journey, if things didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but you've, demonstrated that growth and maturity, like how you very rightly pointed out. And that's what is important, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And so just thinking about, our seniors right now, right? Every time when, September, October rolls around, they're, thrust into their college essays and their eating, breathing, sleeping, essays at this point. So what advice would you give to students or to seniors more specifically who are in the midst of all their essay writing?
Yeah, kind of two things I would point to. One, you want to be your authentic self. You want to present yourself in a way that's honest and true to who you are. I think one of the things that is surprisingly easy to see when evaluating essays is a student that is trying to put on a front for the college essay. They're speaking beyond who they are. And you want to stay true to who you are and what you're aspiring to be. You don't want to put on a front just for the college essay. You also, the thing that I also recommend a lot is not to overthink it. I think there is this pressure that students carry with them when writing these essays that they have to write a New York Times bestseller in under 500 or 700 words, and it's hard to do. I think the essays that I enjoy reading the most are the ones where a student is expounding on a part of their background or their experiences, both as a student or outside of their learning, that gives us a new angle into their life. It shows us a new perspective. But I think a lot of students think that they have to showcase that they did this extraordinary thing or they accomplished this amazing feat. And the truth of the reality is that that happens to such a small fraction of high school graduates. Sometimes the mundane things of your life are the things that tell the most powerful story. And that's what we want to see. We just want to get to know an applicant better, and we want them to be honest within their essay about who they are. And I think if you approach the writing from that mindset, you'll find a lot of success, and you also will have a lot less stress going through that process too, because it's hard to measure up with students, or you hear about your peers, they're writing an essay about how in the summer they helped to build a school in another country. Some students write about stuff like that. very few people do things like that. Whereas some of the best essays I write are detailed. They're nicely written, they're beautifully detailed, and you're learning something new about the student beyond them as a student. You're learning about them as a person. That's what we want.
Absolutely. And so I had done some work with admissions before, and I always tell students that, in fact, I love it when their voice comes through in the essay, right? That goes back to what you were saying about doing, being your authentic self, right?
Sure.
Really allowing your voice to shine through. And I feel like that's what really makes it personal and unique.
Indeed.
Right. Perfect. So if we can talk a little bit about, student life, right? How would you describe, and I know it's hard, right? Because there's no one stereotypical student at AU, but how would you describe your student population?
Yeah, a couple adjectives that come to mind are hardworking. I mentioned that early on. Our students really want to tackle experiences like internships, research, and studying abroad. And you're not attracted to those things unless you're willing to work hard for it, because doing an internship while you're still in classes it's a sacrifice. But our students are interested in that type of sacrifice because they know how that experience will move them forward in their quest. So hardworking is a word I would use. I mentioned this earlier, but globally minded. Again, I think we attract students that have a global perspective. And a third word I would use, and this is a funny one, but I mean it in a positive way, our students are quirky. I think we attract students that are really invested in being authentic. They're not afraid to showcase who they are, whatever that may be. And within that, we have a pretty quirky student body. And I love being a part of a community like that. Because on the inside, we're all a little different. And it's important that we feel comfortable showcasing whatever that difference is, because it's those differences that lift us up and make our community stronger. So we're hardworking, globally minded, and quirky. That would be my three adjectives for AU.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And then can you tell us a little bit about, your first year student experience program? I know that American University has a really strong and a really solid program in place. Can you tell our students and families a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think our first year curriculum is wonderful. It puts students in a place to find success early on in their first year of college. And we all know that that first year of college is so critical to long-term success. So we want students to be in classes that challenge them, that move them forward, but to also be in a social environment that does the same. From a curriculum standpoint, AU does have a general core curriculum, but it does give a lot of flexibility. It gives students choice to pursue the various interests that they have. And it also guides them down a particular curricular pathway. So there are courses that you'll have a lot of choice and ownership in, but there's also courses that you're going to take with other first-year students. And that will, in essence, bond you and your colleagues together, your peers together through your first year. We also have a first-year academic advising model that is excellent in that through the curriculum, students will get to interact with their academic advisor at least once per week throughout their first year of college. And it's our belief that when students can connect with their advisor frequently, they're reinforcing successful habits, ensuring that they're taking classes that are challenging them, that they're enjoying. And it also helps smooth over any issues that might arise more quickly. Instead of letting them develop or grow, these are issues that can be tackled in conjunction with our expert staff. So I think from an academic advising and a curriculum standpoint, students get a really unique experience. AU is also a school that deeply values and sees the importance of living learning communities. These are a way to bring the learning aspect into the social aspect of college. And a majority of our first year students are living in these types of communities, which help we believe students make the adjustment to college much more successfully. When you surround yourself with peers who are different but share similarities or interests to you, it helps you find success in your first year. And when you're able to find success in your first year, you're able to succeed in years 2 through 4. And that's what we're trying to achieve here, is putting students in a position to be successful across their 4-year journey. But for us, that starts with a really innovative and a really tailored first year experience that provides them opportunities that will challenge them and help them grow at the same time.
Great, great. And then I know you mentioned a little earlier, right? And actually, this has been a theme all through, Jeremy, where, DC being an extension of the AU campus. But I know that as a parent myself, right, and speaking on behalf of other parents and students, the whole concept of safety and how safe is a student going to be is definitely going to be, on their minds, right? And especially for students who are coming in internationally as well, leaving families behind. So can you tell us a little bit about, what does AU actually do to promote safety on campus?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And it's at the forefront of our mind that when a student comes to our campus, the families that send them to us expect their student to be safe. We take that charge very seriously. And I think there's a lot that AU does to ensure that that happens day in and day out. For one, as I mentioned, yes, we're in a major city, but we're also in more of a residential part of the city. So foot traffic, for the most part, are individuals who are meant to be on our campus. They're there with a purpose and a reason, whether they work here, they're a neighbor of our campus community, they're a student, a staff member, alumni. So given that we have a more central campus that's not in the heart of the city, the foot traffic that you see are generally people that are meant to be there. Like a lot of institutions, we have an array of technology that we use to help enhance student safety on campus. For example, we have a sophisticated array of like call boxes and camera systems around campus to monitor campus activity. Also, for students that are living on campus, only students that live in the residence hall can gain access to that residence hall. So let's say you're visiting a friend, you're going to study with them, and they live in another residence hall. You yourself can't just walk in and go to their room. There's a 24-hour desk-controlled entry into each of our residential halls, which helps cut down on unnecessary traffic within the residential halls and ensures that in our places where our students live, that its access is controlled to those that are also living there. Beyond that, I think we have an excellent app that our students can use. It's called the Rave app, and it really provides a technology foundation for students to have safe environments on campus. So, good example of this, let's say you're wrapping up a late study session in the library. It's 3 a.m, it's dark, no one's around. But you have to walk, you have a 5-minute walk back to your dorm. If you open the Rave app, it has this feature where if you have your finger on the screen of your phone, and if your finger goes off the screen of your phone for more than, I think it's like 10 or 15 seconds, campus safety will be alerted to your location and let them know that, hey, you're no longer touching the screen of your phone, which could indicate that something is up. So there's very discreet ways like that I think AU is very safe. Washington, D.C. in and of itself is a very secure city when you think about it. We have a lot of different police and protection services here, whether it's the Metropolitan Police of D.C., the U.S. Capitol Police, the Secret Service, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, private safety services. So you're not very far from a public safety official at any given time. Interestingly, the headquarters for the Department of Homeland Security are directly across the street from AU's main campus. It sounds kind of silly, but you really are in a place where there is a lot of safety measures in place just by virtue of it being the nation's capital.
That sounds great, and I'm sure it helps to have the embassies around as well, because I know that they typically have
private security.
Exactly, they have increased security, and I know you mentioned that the Japanese headquarters or the person who's living there is like
right,
it's
right next door,
all right around, right? It's right next door, which is great, and I think and I know you touched upon this a little bit earlier, but also you have I think the blue light system wherein, and again, I was reading about this because it's one of the first things that I dove deeper into.
Of course.
Right, where you have, and I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently from wherever you are on campus, you should
one.
be able to have access to 2 blue lights. And as soon
Correct.
as you hit that, within 90 seconds, you'll have some support or somebody there. And as soon as you hit that light, also, you have cameras that go on,
Correct.
it records everything. And so you should really feel like, AU is really taking care of you and making sure that they are concerned about your safety.
Indeed. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's another one of our technology enhancements that I spoke about early on. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So great. Thank you so, so much, Jeremy. This was super insightful, super helpful. I know our families are really going to appreciate everything you've shared today.
Glad to help. And I wish you all the best as you navigate this college process. And if there's anything we can do here at AU, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to help.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy.